I'm going to sue you out of existence.
Hey! We're recording the podcast! Shut up!
Good morning to you, wherever you are, because it is
Morning Somewhere!
for September 23rd, 2024. My name is Bernie Burns. Sitting right over there, she's still desperately holding on to our date-iversary. It's Ashley Burns, everybody.
I love our date-iversary.
Say hi to Ashley. Did we ever say like the slam dunk first date that I took you on? Have we ever told people that?
I think
that might not be relatable.
We've spoken about it a little bit. No, it was amazing though. I had so I moved back to the U.S.
Listen up, fellas. Incoming information. How to land a hot chickie.
I landed in San Francisco. It was like September 6th or something like that. And you messaged me like, "Oh, you're back. Well, I need a favor." Is kind of how you phrase it. You're like,
let me.
Okay, all right, take over this.
So not smooth. I said, "Hey, you're moving back to the U.S.," and you said, "Yes," and I said, "What's up?" I said, "Well, that's great timing." I said, because I have a +1 to the Emmys. I'm going to the Emmys this year. And I would love if you would attend with me. That's what I said.
Yes. And I was like, yes, I would be more than happy to go to the Emmys with you. Why not?
And inside she was like,
squee. But no, that was, yes. As far as first dates go, slam dunk. So we've every time the Emmys comes around, we're like, oh, it's date-iversary time. And today is our date-iversary.
And it's easy to find out because we can look up the Emmys in 2013.
2012.
2012.
Yeah,
2012.
It's been that long. So
I totally remember that.
So welcome to our 12-year date-iversary.
12-year date-iversary.
We've been together a while now. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. We've been through like 3 leap years. I don't know how else to measure that. 12 years. And now married. We got married in 2019.
Yeah. So now you you've mentally switched over to like anniversary and that'd be the one thing. And which I agree, that's like the date of final commitment. But I also don't want to. Okay, I'm not doing date year erasure. That's not happening.
There does have to be a point though when you get married where you switch. Like I've never met a couple who's celebrating their 50th wedding anniversary and then also, but we just first started dating 2 years earlier. Like it goes into the just for us memories.
No, maybe we are going to be the change that we want to see in the world.
I don't want to see that change. I want
we'll be the first.
There's other changes I'd much rather see before that. I mean, listen, it's a very important day to me as well. That was my first smooch. I got my first smooch from you on that. I might have actually, technically, I might have gotten the smooch the
after
day
midnight.
No, I might have gotten the day before.
That's true. That was true. That was you when you came up to San Francisco to pick me up for the Emmys.
That is correct. And I got a smooch. in San Francisco. So the smooch, this is like, yesterday is our smooch-iversary. So technically is the 23rd our actual date anniversary, unless you're smooching random dudes on the street.
Look, don't judge. Don't judge.
It is San Francisco.
Up until the 23rd, I was technically single.
Up until the 23rd. And then, yeah, so we started, so the first official date, though, is the 23rd. So you kind of create these things anyway, right? Like,
yeah, like it's sometimes you take the date because you need to pin it down, right? You're pinning down milestones.
Yeah.
And so even you're like, okay, what's this or it's this. So like sometimes we don't celebrate our anniversary on our anniversary because one of us is gone, but it's still like a date that we have pinned down.
I won't put you on the spot, but I'm always curious. Because that was a weird date too, because that was a travel date, and I was absolutely certain, no assumptions in any way whatsoever, I would never presume to buy or get one hotel room. We got 2 hotel rooms, 2 separate rooms, not like one hotel room, 2 beds, not anything weird. But that's a weird thing to travel on your first date, right?
Yeah, a destination date.
I won't ask you. But I've always been curious. If I had gotten one room, would that be a deal breaker? Would you have gone? Would you have been like, I don't know.
Honestly, I don't know. Because you were very upfront that you booked 2 hotel rooms right from the beginning, which definitely made me feel comfortable because it was like a no expectation thing, right? And I will also say that you doing so made quite an impression on me as like a gesture of like respecting space.
What else are you going to do?
And
how else are you going to travel together for the first day? I'm sure there's other people that have done it, right? That have done that. They've traveled and they have just like the assumption is one room, and that's got to be a whole conversation.
All right, watch out. I now have a ticking time bomb on my lap. We have a cat with an attitude problem this morning.
I also want to be clear. I got the nicer room. Even though you were just, was that like
I'd like the deluxe suite and a single.
Did you ever do like that was not, we weren't like, so when you go to these events, not everyone goes on the red carpet. There's actually two red carpets.
Yeah, there's like everyone who walks into the event walks upon a red carpet, but then there's like the red carpet off to the side.
Right. Or more accurately too, those people like for an event that starts at 5, those people might be going in at 1. The rest of the people get to go in at like 10 a.m. if they want to do that. And we're talking about the people who are, of course, nominated for awards and things like that.
Yeah,
and then oddly enough,
the interviews and things like that, the step and repeat.
We got to go back to the Emmys after that because then our show, The Amazing Race, our season was nominated for the Emmys.
Yeah,
later.
So it was nominated under the reality TV category. So hence the Emmy-nominated Bernie Burns, which makes me Emmy-nominated too. I feel like I should point out, but that never comes up.
You got to manifest that shit, actually. You got to put that out there. You think people know that you own a Tesla on your own? You got to fucking go out there.
Gotta tell them all about it.
Gotta like mention it, but like not like it's not a whatever. We went to the Emmys or whatever. No big deal. Then people pick it up.
No, it's very exciting though. So here with us in our house now to celebrate our date-iversary is one Blaine Gibson.
I love Blaine so much.
We just got back from picking him up from the train station. He took a sleeper car and he's been exploring Scotland, and so he's now come to visit, and that's really exciting.
One of the things that's crazy, we're new here too. One of the things that can kind of drive me crazy when people come to visit you or they come visit the city that you're in is they end up doing stuff in your hometown that you don't do because they're coming as a tourist and they take the opportunity to get these things done. And I've always wanted to take a sleeper train. At the same time, when the fuck am I going to do that? Like I can always do that next month or next week.
Well, it's also really easy for us to be like, oh yeah, we could, but it's like a 10-hour and it's overnight, and then we have to switch trains and you have to go up and you got to do this. And when you live somewhere, that sounds like, as Gavin would say, a bit of faff.
A bit of faff.
Right. It's all just too much. You're like, or I could just get on an airplane and be home in 2 hours. Right. And so when you live somewhere, all that faff doesn't seem nearly as fun as when you're visiting somewhere. Sometimes when you're visiting, the faff is the point.
Also, since this is an all personal information podcast, apparently today, this episode, Ashley, I feel comfortable saying this, not a morning person, not at all. I think we've talked about this before.
Don't think this is a secret.
I don't ask her questions. We were on a sleeper train once before. Do you remember when we were on a sleeper train?
It was in our Emmy-nominated season of Amazing Race.
Got it, girl.
And we were headed from Armenia to Georgia.
See how natural that was? You just stuck in that self-promotion, just like you're learning here. It's all great.
And it was an overnight train. And so we had our little sleeper compartment. And I only sort of remember this because you keep telling me about it. But they stopped the train at the border.
Georgia, the country. The Georgia former Soviet army? I don't know. But they sure felt like it.
Well, the guns definitely felt like it.
They come in with their machine guns, and this is not hyperbole. They rolled that room. Like the mattress, the sheets, they threw everything out in the hallway. They rolled the place. And here is tiny little Ashley. They wake her up in the middle of the night. And I'm like, oh my God, this is kind of a whole thing. She didn't back, like you were like full grump. Like you were just like shooting looks at them like, these are fucking soldiers. Do not do this. Don't do this. And you were like, rah, 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 rah. Yeah, you were not. I learned at that point, it's not an act. You are definitely, don't wake her up ever for any reason.
I don't know that. I mean, I may have been on my feet, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I was awake.
You were angry.
Because I don't remember it properly. If I was awake, I feel like I would have much clearer memories of all that's happening. Instead, everything is very fuzzy. Like someone put one of those like really, like smoothing like lenses, or they put a bunch of like petroleum jelly
they put
on the
Vaseline
lens
on the lens
or something, and so everything is just sort of like oddly smoothed over in my memory.
Yeah, that makes sense. You might have even thought later that day, were we like, they were pointing at machine guns at me?
Wait a minute, did they? Yeah, right?
So it's interesting.
Well, that's rude.
It's not something you ever think about with your life partner is to go like, hey, if we were like surrounded by guys with machine guns in the middle of the night, how do you think you would react? That was a good test for us because now I know it's like, let me do the talking next time.
Hold me back.
Jesus, you were just like so fussy. I'm like, this is not a fussy situation at all. Anyway, that was like, I don't believe we were ever actually in any danger. But when you're woken up in the middle of the night by people with machine guns and they literally just start tossing your shit around, yeah, it's a moment for concern.
It's a point of sensitivity.
Not just your average Tuesday, Not then. I think we also held a record for the people on that season who encountered authorities with guns.
Oh, I'm sure there are a lot of records. The thing with that show is the moment a gun turns up, the cameras point at the ground to de-escalate the situation.
That crew's amazing,
basically, like they've been through a lot. There are 3 times that I know of on our season that guns made an appearance. One was at a check in Mexico. One was in Dubai when one of the teams got pulled over by like the Dubai secret police. And then there was this time in on the Georgia border as well.
The midnight train to Georgia.
Yeah, so it's not like this doesn't happen frequently with that show. And
put our life at risk for that great pun. Thanks, Phil.
But no, it was a great experience, that whole thing, even with all the guns.
We were fine. And like I said, it's like if there's anything that was like at any point in time, like the lifesaver in the water, the buoy that you could hold on to, it was that crew. Because they were very calm. They knew how to handle situations, and situations come up. Yeah, that's part of the excitement of traveling all over the world.
You just look over at them and you take your cues.
Yeah, you look at them and take their cues. All right, speaking of taking cues, what is going on in the world? What can we cue off of today?
Well, something interesting is happening in Texas right now, Bernie, and that is, have you heard of a tiny game called Cards Against Humanity?
I'm familiar with it.
Have you heard of a small indie startup called SpaceX?
SpaceX, you say?
I did. Yes, I do say SpaceX.
Is that Twitter in space? I never made the connection between all the X's until now. SpaceX.
So Cards Against Humanity is officially suing SpaceX. You may remember several years ago, Cards Against Humanity bought...
I remember something about Cards Against Humanity a few years ago, but anyway, go ahead.
They bought a bit of land on the Texas border, the Texas-Mexico border. It was like a kind of a... political, social commentary stunt. They were protesting the border wall that at the time President Trump was trying to get built, and so they built, and I believe they crowdfunded this acre of land that they bought as this sort of social protest. Well, a little company called SpaceX bought adjacent land in the years following, and have apparently for the past several months didn't realize that like Cards Against Humanity owned this acre over here or didn't care or something, and have been using this land as like a sort of construction staging area is
For
what
how
it sounds
long
like.
have they been doing this?
At a minimum 6 months.
Okay.
And so
you can lose land.
Eminent domain takes a bit longer than 6 months.
I was thinking more so like squatting.
Oh, yeah.
Like if
about like eviction with your tenant, here's your eviction papers.
I know somebody who has like family land down in South Texas, and they have to go visit it on a fairly regular basis just to make sure that no one has put it in use, essentially.
Right, because then they can claim some sort of like there's weird loopholes with ownership in a lot of things, but in this case, they're specifically saying that that SpaceX basically just took over and started using their land as a dumping ground, and like filled it with gravel and as they put it, space garbage.
Space garbage.
All this space garbage over here.
Technically, aren't we all space garbage?
They said that they brought this to SpaceX's attention, and SpaceX, instead of apologizing, offered them a lowball offer. Or made a lowball offer to buy the land, and they said it was less than like half of what it was worth. So in retaliation, Cards Against Humanity is now suing them for $15 million.
$15 million.
And here's the thing
is
about
there any like hard numbers here on what the land is supposed to be worth? Is it an acre?
It's about an acre, they said.
Was it crowdfunded, you said? Maybe we can find out that from the crowdfunding.
Yeah, it was. So it was crowdfunded. And the fun thing about this, the super fun thing about the lawsuit is that they're saying that there's, I think, a website they've now put up where if you helped crowdfund that acre, and if they successfully get the $15 million from the lawsuit, they're going to basically give it back to their shareholders, as it were.
So, there's a thing that not many people do. In fact, I can't think of one that's ever reached like critical mass. When we were like, after we did some of our crowdfunding stuff, there was a law that was passed that allowed you to do equity-based crowdfunding. And it sounds like retroactively Cards Against Humanity is doing this, where they're saying like, look, you gave us the money. So if we're going to make money from this, we're going to then turn it around almost like they were investors. I don't believe that they did an equity-based crowdfunding when they bought this land. So they have to be kind of careful about the way they do that. And they certainly don't have an obligation, if they didn't, to do anything whatsoever, because crowdfunding is just to make the project happen or whatever. So it's really cool. Cards Against Humanity has a very long history of doing really cool promotions. And sometimes they're pretty wild. Overall, incredibly offensive. But they have to...
As you would expect.
As you would expect. But they had to lay low because this incredibly offensive company caught a lot of heat a few years ago for having an offensive workplace. And there was all this turmoil about it, like back in the 2020, like right in the middle of the COVID stuff and BLM stuff. And they took it on the chin hard. I was actually really surprised to see Cards Against Humanity in the news again. Like, especially with another, effectively, this is a stunt, right? This is a stunt.
Yeah, and the amazing thing about it is it's a stunt building on an earlier stunt.
Yes.
Right? But which is not to say that it's not a legitimate grievance, because this acre is theirs. But it is building on a stunt from several years ago, and I'm sure when this came up and fell in their lap, they were like, "Oh my God, this is gonna be amazing."
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like the stunt was to prevent the border wall, which also makes me wonder, why does SpaceX have land on the border? Why is that important to them?
Well, apparently I don't know that the border itself is important to them, except that I think they specifically are just dramatically increasing their footprint.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well, in very positive SpaceX news, this is from Reuters. This is Dateline 12 hours ago. SpaceX plans to send 5 uncrewed starships to Mars.
5?
In 2 years, Musk says. And then quickly the lead in here. SpaceX plans to launch about 5 uncrewed Starship missions to Mars in 2 years, CEO Elon Musk said on Sunday in a post on social media platform X. Earlier this month, Musk had said that the first Starships to Mars would launch in 2 years when the next Earth-Mars transfer window opens. So
they need every acre they can get to build 5 unmanned spaceships.
Right. There are just points in time where it's relatively much easier to get to Mars than other times. And when those windows come up,
like
they have to take
when
advantage.
like Mars is closer, or when they can slingshot or do other physics genius magic.
It's a lot of different things, but essentially it's the orbital paths of both Earth and Mars. It's not necessarily, I don't believe, when they're just closest to each other or when they're going to be closest to each other, but it's also like relative velocities to each other and everything else. Some of those space scientists, when they're busy not being sued by Cards Against Humanity, could explain that. They're busy in court now. Thanks, Cards Against Humanity, for wrapping up all those space brains.
So they're sending 5 unmanned spaceships. So
that's really fucking dope. That's really cool. And I've said before about Elon Musk, to me, he proves social media makes all of our lives worse. Like, right? Here's a guy who can just decide, oh, look, we got a window open. Let's send 5 unmanned craft to another goddamn planet. And then the rest of his time he spends, busy trying to make sure everybody likes him on X. Who gives a shit? Just go do that. Go do that.
I have a different take on it, if I may. My take is that the businesses which he funds but has the least personal involvement in seem to be doing great.
Well, what's the involvement, though? I mean, is that biased because the one he's involved with is a super fucking shitty social media company? That's the biggest one he seems to be so heavily involved with. I mean, we see that, too. When I say that, I fully recognize now. We talked about Chappell Roan and her comments about being famous and how she seemed to be using all the right modern language to talk about it. And I was curious at the time. Everyone seems to be on her side. I'm curious how this is going to go. Are they going to make the turn? I feel like they're starting to make the turn.
Yeah, well, so she has done a couple more interviews since then, and in one she compared fans to an abusive ex-husband.
I think she compared fame to an abusive ex-husband.
Fame to an abusive ex-husband, just with the like stalking and people like being like aggressive at you and all this sort of stuff.
That one didn't land.
That one did not land. And so I think there's a couple people being like, just stop doing interviews then.
They called out
here we
Enya,
go.
they said.
Here's the specific quote. It says, I feel like fame is just abusive. The vibe of this stalking, talking shit online, people who won't leave you alone, yell at you in public is the vibe of an abusive ex-husband. And so people are like, yeah, go do the anything. Go live in a castle.
Come out and make music every now and then just retreat to your castle.
Yeah, like it. That
was a comment from Reddit.
Is it is very difficult to build profile and to build a career without doing things like interviews. But if you hate it that much, don't do it.
And I fully recognize that's literally what one step aside, but literally what I just said about Elon Musk, which is just like, hey man, just do the science stuff and just leave the social media stuff alone. He can do whatever he wants. It's his life. Same with Chappell Roan. She can say whatever she wants. It's social media. She has as much a voice as anybody else. So, and I get there's a little hypocrisy on my end where I want Elon Musk to do that, and I think Chappell Roan should be able to say these things and do whatever she wants. And I don't think people should tell her just go to go to a castle like Enya and write music and be happy. But at the same time,
on the other hand, though,
I'm comfortable saying that about Musk.
If everyone retreated to a castle to write music and came out just to do concerts, that would also be pretty dope.
Also, Chappell Roan doesn't have her own social media monopoly almost. I think X would be better if, like Musk, the guy running it, wasn't tweeting out, oh, that'd be fucking amazing. That'd be amazing if they said like people who work at social media places can't have social media accounts. That'd be a cool line in the sand. Right.
Like how people in the government maybe shouldn't be invested in personally invested in how specific stocks in the economy do or whatever.
Does Mark Zuckerberg have a Facebook page? He must. But does anyone ever? No one ever talks about his Facebook page.
That's true. It's never like Zuckerberg make a statement on his Facebook page about this thing.
He's no Tom from MySpace.
I was talking to Nick Saldana about old school MySpace over the weekend, and how that website had a really specific magic to it that I don't feel like has been recaptured. There were kids learning HTML to spruce up their MySpace page. And you could go to any artist page and they would have these songs on it and you could add their song to your profile. And so people go to your page and it just felt very, very individualized. And when they relaunched and they made it kind of like slick and, futuristic and modern, it was lacking the magic.
He's completely got a Facebook page.
Does he?
He updates all the time. He goes to a lot of concerts apparently. His last one, I'll read you. Make sure everyone's up to date. Here's what he's up to. September 21st, he wrote, amazing Green Day show and huge congrats, Billy Joe and Mike, on the 20th anniversary of American Idiot and 30th anniversary of Dookie. I remember many parts of my life by what new Green Day music I was listening to, from middle school, high school, and camp growing up, to coding early Facebook, to our wedding, and more recent times. Remember MySpace, everybody? I need to write that. You guys are legends. So he's excited about Green Day. See, that's like nobody talks about it. Nobody talks about Mark Zuckerberg's Facebook page.
No one cares about what he has to say about Green Day's anniversary.
All right, now I'm in the weeds here. Now I'm seeing all my friends. It calls out everyone I know that liked his post that follows Mark Zuckerberg. All right, I got your names here. I'm shame on you. I'm calling you guys today.
See if you can find when Green Day's date-iversary is.
I was just thinking about that. I'm like, is our date-iversary older? That scared me that our date-iversary was older than American Idiot. But no, it's got us by 8 years.
We'll catch up eventually.
Apparently, Mark Zuckerberg is a fan of the classic stuff, too. The classic Green Day. When was the last time Green Day put out a new album?
I don't know.
Did I catch you off guard there?
You did.
It wasn't a serious question.
Why, do you know?
No. When was that? The whole point is, when was the last time you listened to new Green Day music?
Look, things are making a comeback. Beetlejuice is doing amazing.
It's true. They're number one at the box office for the third week in a row now.
They outdid Transformers in its premiere week.
Can I tell you, I kind of like the trailer for that Transformers thing. And I can't tell, sometimes when you get these long-running franchises, I can't tell what the chatter is, if people really like it or really don't. Transformers has so many different versions, from the classic 80s cartoon to the movies they did then to the Michael Bay stuff. Like, I think everybody knows a different Transformers.
Right. There's what's your Transformers?
And this is, from what it looks like, it's a prequel. Hemsworth, I think, is one of the voices in it. It's Transformers 1. And all the trailers that I saw for it, I was like, okay, I'll give that a shot. I didn't go see it in theaters, but when I have a chance to see it, I'll go see Transformers 1.
Yeah, well, you may be able to watch it on streaming sooner rather than later, just the way things are going now. But because it debuted in the number 2 spot behind Beetlejuice, which is doing bonkers numbers. The spooky season's really paying off for
How's
them.
Coraline doing?
I'm not sure. It's not in the number 1 or number 2 spot. So the Beetlejuice did 26 million this weekend for its third weekend, and Transformers 1 did 25 million.
All right.
Although it was in slightly fewer theaters as well. But that's so far the tale on Beetlejuice is doing really great. So, old things making comebacks. We're gonna any day now. We're gonna make a big ass comeback.
So, does it have anything there for like opening weekend for Transformers 1 versus its budget? Is there any indications of that?
It looks like it cost $75 million. They were targeting a start of $30 million to $40 million. So it is behind the window that they were hoping for. Although it did bring in $14 million internationally, so their worldwide total is $39 million. I'm not sure if that means that their target was for if that was their domestic or global target. But globally they hit it. Domestically they didn't.
All right. Would you like to hear some of the latest Green Day music?
Yeah. What they got going on?
Green Day released an album earlier this year called Saviors, and it was released January 19th, 2024. Here is The American Dream is Killing Me from Green Day.
This is your morning drive.
Sounds like fucking Green Day.
Yeah, I'm expecting, where I am though, I'm expecting a bagpipe any moment. Yep, no, that sounds like Green Day.
Classic, yeah. So I had a really fun music discussion this week with Nick Saldana. And those of you who have followed Red vs. Blue for a really long time will know Jason Saldana. Nick had one line where he stepped in and read as Tucker when there was a blackout in New York in like 2007. And Nick seamlessly stepped in. But Nick has been in our lives for a really long time around a lot. And he was in town and we sat down and we were talking about what it was like to grow up in a musical family, because I did not grow up in a musical family. So at the end of today's podcast, we'll leave you with some of him and Jason's band, The Visitors, and we'll be playing some of the Saldana family music all this week.
Yeah, and the rest of that full discussion is up on the Patreon.
It was fun
for those of you who can catch that.
Did you have music like in your life, like music lessons, music?
No, I always sort of like wished that I did. I had, friends would be like, "Oh, I can't play right now. I have piano lessons and things like that." But I aside from the class mandated recorder in like fourth
right.
in like fourth grade or whatever. No, I never picked up any musical instruments.
What was that? Why the recorder? Just because it was easy to use? Like why not just like keyboards or something like that?
I assume it's because they were small and compact, and easy to learn the basics of. And also, unlike a lot of instruments, recorders are not particularly delicate. They can hold up to fourth graders, treating them like swords during break.
Fair enough.
Practice and so on. And also, because it seems like an obligation of all schools to torture parents as completely as possible during their school concerts.
And so what song did you learn on the recorder? Do you remember?
Oh, I couldn't even tell you. I mean, I
Hot
know
Cross Buns.
I'm sure we learned Hot Cross Buns. I'm sure we learned Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah.
Which is also like the one thing I can play on piano.
Frere Jacques for some reason. Which is like, I'm not even sure what language
really
that's supposed to be. Frere Jacques.
It doesn't matter because whatever you played on the recorder sounded exactly the same. It was just inhuman screeching.
That's like the most like bastardized French version of those words. Frere Jacques.
I assumed it was German. I don't know.
Really? Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was. I don't know. I thought it was French when I learned it.
All right. We're going to go spend some time with our friends. But before we go, I'd like to thank our sponsors, Tim. And I would just like to thank, and I would just like to, that is his name. I'm not having a stroke. And then let's listen to some Visitors.
Yeah, all right. Well, that does it for us today. This is Visitors, the Saldana brothers.
Out of Austin, Texas.
playing from their album Secrets. All right, well, that does it for us today, September 23rd, 2024. We will be back talk tomorrow. We hope you'll be here as well.
Bye, everybody.